Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 21 meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Dish.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison.
Here.
Councilmember Song. Absent. Councilmember Watson.
Here.
Councilmember Radina.
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Here.
Mayor Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Iyer.
Here.
Councilmember Ackman.
Here.
Councilmember Briggs. Absent. Councilmember Carnell.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Medina, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The agenda is approved. Do we have any communications today from our city administrator?
No, Mayor.
We have then an introduction from our good friends at the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm Matt Carpenter, the CEO of the ride. It's a pleasure to be back before you. I think the last time we were here was August, and that was a really busy month for us, but things have quieted down a little bit. And seeing that October on the federal fiscal year, October is the beginning of our calendar, I thought I'd look back at fiscal year 24 and just sort of hit some of the key highlights. We had a lot of successes this year and wanted to just sort of touch on a couple of them. Back in July, you may remember we had a small ceremony at our garage down on South Industrial Highway. The mayor was one of our keynote speakers, and we were glad to host the administrator of the Federal Transit Administration, who came to give us a $25 million grant for low and no emissions bus propulsion technologies. We were glad to have as many of you there as could be there. Thank you so much for your time. We've been working behind the scenes to get ready to implement that grant. We're just waiting on federal obligation of those funds. As soon as we get that, which we expect to be in January, we're going to go start buying some buses, putting a purchase order in. You may be surprised to know that manufacturing timelines are still a little slow across the country. Our electric diesel hybrid buses will take about 18 months to get here, and the fuel cell hydrogen buses will take about 24 months. In the meantime, we are still talking with the Department of Energy's Hydrogen Hub. They had a big announcement about a hydrogen facility at the American Center for Mobility at Willow Run Airport. We're in a lot of contact with them about the potential to buy green hydrogen from them in the future, so we can not only have a completely zero emissions propulsion system, but also buy local, which would be really nice. So that was a big thing we did this year, but it wasn't actually the biggest thing we were working on. It was the rollout of delivering our promised services from our 2022 millage. You may recall we won an expansion millage in the voters back in August of 22. The money arrived this year, and we've been rolling out those new services over the last about 10 months. Back in April, we inaugurated a new express bus service from downtown Ann Arbor to downtown Ypsi. The Route 104 Washtenaw Express, happy to report it's doing very well. Ridership is growing, and it doesn't seem to be people just transferring from the old services. It's genuinely brand new riders, so we're very excited about that. And then this last August, just a couple months ago, was the big push with the remainder of those services. We expanded the hours of service, so we begin earlier and end later on all days, and then on weekends we doubled the frequency of services throughout the network. And I was watching the buses on the weekend. I think you can, if you're a bus geek, you can notice there are more of them on the weekend, and I was watching people just go about their business, shopping, groceries, all that sort of stuff, and it was wonderful to be able to do that. And I think it's a great example of the alignment between the city and the transit authority. Things called for in the 820 and your transportation master plan leave heavily on additional public transit, and we're happy to be able to deliver those things. We're also excited about things we're working on in the coming year. We've been working with the city and the University of Michigan about a bus lane proposal on State Street. I know the Transportation Commission received some information last week. I'm sure it'll be coming to your attention before long. Next door in Ypsilanti, we continue to work closely for the residents out there. We're about halfway through a NEPA planning process for our new bus terminal at the Ypsilanti Transit Center. We got the site kind of sorted out. Next, we're going to be working on the building over the winter. Next spring, we hope to sort of settle the planning side of it and then get on with fundraising and implementation so that we can open a brand new spectacular bus terminal over there for all the Ypsilanti residents and, of course, Ann Arbor residents who are heading that way. So we're excited about that. And then just to begin to wrap it up, a couple of community engagements we thought were fun and will be even more fun. We're able to be at the A20 Mayor's Green Fair this year, talking up some of those new propulsion systems that are coming in. I'm really looking forward to having the hydrogen fuel cell buses at that fair in the future. I know there's a lot of electric and battery electric stuff. I want to be the first hydrogen fuel cell bus at the fair, so I'm excited about that. And then Halloween is upon us, so I think just this Sunday around lunchtime, 11:30 to 1:30, a lot of downtown merchants and institutions are going to be doing trick-or-treating, so we invite all of you and everyone watching to bring your little ghouls and goblins downtown. If you stop by the library, don't forget to scamper across the street to the Blake Transit Center, where we'll be handing out candy as well. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you so much for your time. If whoever can ever be of assistance, please don't hesitate to give me a call. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Mr. Carpenter, thank you. We now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first speaker today is Tom Stolberg.
Mr. Stolberg, you may unmute your phone.
Good evening. This is Tom Stolberg calling from Lowertown in Ann Arbor. I'd like to speak this evening on B6. This is part of the UDC exceptions to height limit. And specifically, I want to talk about the elevating buildings in the floodplain language. Buildings in the floodplain may be elevated to bring the lowest floor above the floodplain and may exceed the height limit by the depth of the flood protection elevation. That's the language that's proposed to you. It's a little unclear to me. Maybe it's clear to all of you. But given that federal and local policies say not to build new residential in the floodplain, and for very good reason, maybe we could tighten up that language. So please, hopefully you review that, make sure it's clear that we're talking about existing buildings and bringing them out of the floodplain as opposed to any new construction. And the last sentence could also use some clarification as well. Thank you for considering that. I also want to say that as a proud, long-time progressive Democrat, I want to mention that I personally will be voting yes on proposals C and D because they are progressive democratic actions, grassroots movements with the goal of more opportunity for people to vote and to have their vote matter, and for more opportunity for people to run for local office and to represent the citizens of Ann Arbor. This August, we had only one of 5 city council seats contested, and 0 are contested on the November ballot. Something isn't working. In a year where we go to the polls with fears, dope, and misrepresentations about our national election, we sadly face fear-mongering and misrepresentation about our local election proposals from those with a stranglehold on power. To all listening, please support grassroots progressive democracy. Please vote yes on proposals C and D. And everybody, please vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ann Bannister.
Good evening. My name's Ann Bannister. I'm former co-chair of the Ann Arbor City Democratic Party and a former Ward 1 City Council member. I've also been voting as a Democrat for 42 years, and I always do vote 100% Democrat. I I'm here tonight to urge you to vote yes on CA3, the resolution to approve low-income emergency assistance contracts with Washtenaw County for $110,000. This is an example of City Council and the county working together to do good works for the community. But too often, the influence of big money in our local elections is undermining the voices of Ann Arbor residents. It's time to put the power of our elections back in the hands of the whole community, and as the previous caller mentioned, support proposals C and D on your November 5 ballot. C is about nonpartisan elections to bring Ann Arbor in line with 99% of the other municipalities in Michigan, which we are currently bringing up the rear. And Proposal D, which establishes a fair elections fund that will lessen the influence of big money in local elections, which is undermining the voices of Ann Arbor residents. A lot of people I talk to would like to run for city council, but they know that they don't have a snowball's chance in hell because they are not part of the Democratic elite in this town. I would like to thank the over 150 progressive-minded citizens and grassroots volunteers who've been working tirelessly all summer to share reasons to vote yes for Proposal C and D. If you haven't already, please read the letters written to neighbors debunking the myths on the dark money mailer that you may have received from Lansing, a guy named Joe DeSanto, and read the letters from neighbors in town, Lori Saginaw, Dan Rubenstein, Bruce Laidlaw. I also refer you to blogs from Elizabeth Nelson and others, and listen to speeches at public meetings by John Godfrey. Visit AnnArborPropC.com and AnnArborPropD.com. To quote from Lori Saginaw's letter, I believe I'm seeing an established culture of cronyism in Ann Arbor that reflects the patterns of national politics. I see a narrow gateway to civic engagement because a person must have significant financial resources to consider a campaign to run for a city office in Ann Arbor. She quotes Elizabeth Warren, which says that, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Griswold.
Good evening and hello, Mr. Mahoney. To continue with the last speaker, I met Senator Warren last week, and one of her talking points was 3 million new houses. So I hope that we will be able to get some federal programs started so that we can meet some of our housing goals. Another thing is that I've tried to encourage people to come to council, and they are afraid. And it's really a shame because people are just not treated very well. I'm standing up here and people are talking to each other. I mean, I know I always talk about safety and it's boring, but, you know, a little decorum would be good. Tonight I want to talk about CA1, exception to the International Fire Code. In 2017, we adopted the International Fire Code, but we have an amendment on the agenda to go against the International Fire Code, and I just want to read a couple quotes because I'm really confused. We are continually finding there is not enough road width, especially within the Downtown Development Authority, to allow for these 26 feet along with protected bike lanes. So should we widen our roads, figure out what we can do to get the safe 26 feet? No. We should talk to people who know nothing about this topic, such as the Downtown Development Authority, City of Ann Arbor Transportation Unit, and the City of Ann Arbor Planning Unit, because they are in line that removing Section D105.2 will address this conflict point. Why in the world do we want to address a conflict point? Let's fix the solution. We are trading off not doing anything with the possibility that we are going to have people burned in tall buildings. This is just crazy. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about was DC3, look to Michigan, we're closing some streets. You know, I just get excited when I read about the University of Michigan, and I'm on the Board of Governors of the league. They do things right, whether it's the 2034 plan or the 2050 plan. And I'm just going to read one sentence that gives you a hint at how effective they are. One of their goals is to infuse value-driven and evidence-based decision-making into our university's units, functions, and practices to drive positive change and strengthen our culture and climate. Maybe City Council could adopt something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carl Sicania.
Good evening. My name is Carl Sicanga. I'm a veteran of 35 years in education, most recently as the principal of a high school and a youth prison in Detroit. But I'm here today, this evening, in my capacity as the founder and artistic director of a local theater company called Brevity Shakespeare. We are facilitating a community project in the spring of 2025 that I'm hoping Ann Arbor City Council will consider participating in. Not necessarily as a body, but as a contributor to certain members of the group. So we exist to promote community by promoting empathy, because the beauty, the power, the fun of Shakespeare's plays are in the universality of human experience they represent. Everyone can recognize themselves in it if they can get past the barrier of the frequent incomprehensibility of Shakespeare's language. When I'm watching Shakespeare, and I'm a lover of it, I often find myself going, what is he saying? Who is he talking to? What? And when I'm reading it, that happens all the time. Now, we want to reach Shakespeare to every member of the community, and we do that in two ways. First, by distilling the plays. We're called Brevity Shakespeare because our plays run 70 to 90 minutes, with some exceptions. I'll get to one of them in a minute, because that's the one that pertains to you. We also make sure that the community is appropriately represented on stage. We always have a multiracial cast, and what I mean by that is there are never more than 50% of the people on stage who are pink like me. That's how it's always been in our 4 productions, and that's how it will always be in Brevity Shakespeare. So those are just a couple of the ways that we intend to reach everybody through the plays. We've done 4 productions. Our first was pre-pandemic. It featured Councilman Christopher Watson as Osric. We did 3 productions in the past year, and we plan 3 for the next year and for the years in perpetuity after that. Next year, we'll stage 2 productions, but we're going to do a community project in the spring, and this is our plan for each year, 2 productions and 1 community project. I have here our shortest script. This is Julius Caesar. It's a 26-page script, which means it's about a half an hour long, and it's 8 characters. In March, which is no coincidence if you know Julius Caesar at all, around the Ides of March, we'll have 4 to 6 different community groups holding personal friends and family readings of the play. I've spoken with a house of worship, with a visual arts group, an alternative high school, a public radio station, a small business, an advocacy group. The idea is to have groups that are not theater groups look at the play and then gather a couple weeks later to talk about key themes. Does the ends justify the means? What is a city but its people? What is fair? What is honor? My hope is that City Council will consider participating as one of those groups. I will leave you 2 copies of the script. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Our next speaker is Upsne Karaku.
Mr. Karaku, you can unmute your phone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. This is Upasna Kakru, and I am speaking on behalf of a 501c3 nonprofit called Peerbag, and we are a South Asia-inspired community organization. I wanted to join here today to, share my gratitude for Travis Tedina and our council member Ghazi, who supported an event we just ran in the city at the Ann Arbor District Library called Varta. It was the first South Asia-inspired children's storytelling event in Michigan. and only the second in the whole country of its kind. And we are very proud to bring it to Michigan and have it be the center of our work. And the only thing I would share is that 70% of children's and young adult literature in the country still have lead characters that are either white or animals. Only 10% of our books K through 12 are written by authors of color. And representation to that end does matter to kids who are from immigrant communities, to kids who are BIPOC, who do not see themselves reflected anywhere in their classrooms or their writing, that they are, that is showcased in their classrooms. And we hope to bridge that gap, which exists right now in a very systemic way. My hope is that the city can help us bring back the kind of event that we just ran, and support us also to just get the word out as a new grassroots organization. I represent a community that is one of the fastest growing ethnicities in the country, and also the people who are, many of them are first time voters who would like to get involved. So it really does matter to be able to see people who are able to lead efforts like that. Most people don't realize this, but I want us to be a city that can get away from incidental representation to day-to-day representation in a more broad-based manner. And I'm really hoping for your support in this as we grow.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathleen Mozak.
Slower. All right, good evening. Hi, my name is Kathleen Mozak, and I reside in the city of Ann Arbor, Ward 4. I appreciate this opportunity to speak before you regarding accessible parking here at City Hall. I brought this concern to the city through several different channels, and still the problem persists. Currently, there are 2 van accessible parking spots along with regular and EV charging parking spots in the small parking lot that exists behind City Hall. However, those spots are not well marked, if at all. This creates opportunities for vehicles to park in the open space between the 2 accessible parking spots, creating problems for those of us who need to deploy a wheelchair ramp to enter and exit our vehicle. To say that this is frustrating and problematic is an understatement. There have been multiple times where I have been unable to even use an accessible spot because a vehicle has not left enough room for me to deploy my ramp, so I have to find other parking. There have also been multiple times where I have parked and upon returning to my vehicle, found my side door blocked and not being able to deploy my ramp. Now, in my youth, when I was able-bodied, there were multiple ways to enter my car when others had parked too closely. I could go through the passenger door, I've even crawled through the hatchback, but sadly, those options are not available to me and others who are like me who have mobility issues. A personal story: last December, upon leaving a city council meeting, there was a vehicle parked directly next to mine. It was very cold, very blustery, lots and lots of snow, and I did the only thing I could think to do. I called the non-emergency police number and asked for help. About a half hour later, a squad car came through the parking lot, and I rolled on over and I'm like, "Can you help me?" He wasn't aware of the situation, but he was very kind, and he did move my vehicle and backed it up so that I could deploy my ramp and get into my vehicle. I was extremely grateful. To me, being able to access the city clerk's office, come to a city council meeting, or conduct other business at City Hall is important for all of us. It seems to me that by having properly marked accessible parking spots, the city can avoid putting its disabled citizens through unnecessary hardship. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ralph McKee.
Good evening, Council. Ralph McKee, Ward 5, Proposal C and D, Part 2. Let's start with this. I had a chat with one of the public leaders of the opponents recently. He said he didn't believe that proponents were conservatives or that the proposals were a barrier to diverse candidates. He's not going to say that publicly, though, too much team loyalty. Perhaps he comes down to this. Under state law, the winnowing down that critics say they want has to be in a low turnout August election. But increased turnout only happens in November. That's an easy choice. And the current primary isn't a winnowing down anyway, because plurality winners can happen in that system too, so that argument makes no sense. And the argument that nonpartisan elections would give too much power to the Democratic Party is kind of amusing. You control the party, and it's trying to defeat this reform. Don't give us too much power, you say. We might abuse it. Sure, like now. Now to Prop D, more scare tactics. New candidates might misuse funds. You might too. That's what state rules apply to. If I insinuated you would do that, you'd go ballistic. But it's okay for you to say others might. It's even okay for you to have a known dark money operative fund mailers trying to say, this could be just like New York Mayor Eric Adams. That's mudslinging. No, that's not okay. You say there could be multiple $50 donations that would have to be matched. No. The amendment says $50 in the aggregate, 50 total. You say ambiguous. No. The cardinal rule of statutory interpretation is to ensure that all the words mean something. But that interpretation would read the phrase in the aggregate right out of the amendment. This issue and several others, including no threshold for matches, were raised in a letter to an opposition lawyer sent to the state AG. The AG didn't respond to any of that because probably doesn't believe any of those things are problems. The only issue that was raised was that only the council can direct funds. No ballot proposal can do that. This view is refuted in a memo from proponents' counsel. The best argument is this. Under the AG's view, ballot proposals can't direct spending for anything without a specific millage. So even a proposal to say fix a bridge that the council wouldn't appropriate funds for, that couldn't be directed by ballot proposal. That makes no sense under the Michigan Constitution. Finally, you raise the specter of multiple lawsuits. The only likely plaintiffs, candidates who were denied funds under restrictions in the enabling ordinance. They have to find and pay a lawyer for a case involving small dollars and low, if any, money damages. Good luck with that. If a suit happens, it likely would raise every claim possible in one suit, likely defended by in-house counsel. After that suit, if there are remaining problems, put the enabling ordinance on the ballot and resolve the issue that way. This is not some giant problem. And I think this is just a pattern of scare tactics and exaggerations and making big problems out of things that really are not that difficult. If we would actually work together on getting a good enabling ordinance, this could be a good proposal. I just ask for some responsibility and some thoughtfulness here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there communications today from council? Councilmember Song.
Whenever former council members of Christmas Past come for public comments, I often wonder if I'll join you once I'm off of council, or perhaps I'll dedicate more time to actually solving problems in our community. Because when I hear over and over again conspiracy theories and suggestions that residents are too afraid to come to council, I think it denies the actual reality. We had over 100 public comments during the ceasefire resolution. This chamber is packed with overflow. People show up. We invite them to show up. We appreciate when they show up with food, which is wonderful. As for the lies about dark money, underwriting local politics, let me share the names of PACs that supported my own election. New American Leaders, a group that provides campaign assistance to first and second generation Americans. This included County Commissioner Yousef Rabi, Senator Stephanie Chang, and Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Southpaw PAC, founded by Abdul El Sayed, who also endorsed my campaign. Michigan Asian American Progressives. And labor organizations that gave me $500. Signs are about $5 each. And 3 burly guys who squeezed into my campaign shirts to door knock. If you tell me that this is dark money, dark influence, you're telling me you're anti-labor, you're anti-PACs, and organizations like Emily List, all these organizations that solicit more participation for underrepresented minorities to participate in local politics and politics at higher levels. The propositions we have in front of us in our community are being offered as solutions to long-standing issues. Yes, we want more participation in our local politics, but these ballots as written do not fix these issues. We know what get out the vote looks like. We know what it looks like because we saw it in 22. People came out in record numbers. issues are important to them, for candidates who spoke to their values. There is no great mystery to local politics. I will join these folks on the other side of the table next month, but I don't think I'll traffic conspiracy theories. I think we will stick to the issues and to the agenda. Thank you.
Councilmember Watson.
Well, one of the joys of having grown up in this town is sometimes you look at a council agenda and you see a commenter that was your high school teacher. I swear there was no inside job. Mr. Sekenga just happened to come out of his own volition. And I do heed his words about empathy. And I think we would all be well advised to try to use a bit of that. And for those who want to talk about involving a diverse set of leaders to add more, minority representation on council who want to lower the barriers to entry, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about that. When I was in college, I worked for a group called Progressive Pipeline, which we found the barrier was that people had to take unpaid internships to get involved in politics. And we created a student-run political action committee to fund people having those internships. And while I was the recruitment director for that fellowship, I expanded the recruitment to state schools, to African Americans, people of color, and I increased the number of people who had taken subsidized lunch and were then eligible to work on campaigns and receive funding. So I appreciate the concern for diversity on council, and I hope you guys will talk to me after the election. Ann Arbor's new Gallup Park Bridge will officially open with a ribbon cutting ceremony on Thursday, October 24th at 4:30 p.m., weather permitting. You're invited to a ceremony that will include a program with city representatives, project partners, and other special guests. The project was made possible through funding from the American Rescue Plan and park maintenance and capital improvements millages, with valuable input from local residents guiding the design process. We look forward to supporting this important community asset, and I look forward to seeing you this Thursday at 4:30 p.m.
Councilmember Redina.
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't planning on speaking on proposals C and D again tonight, but as this is the last the council meeting before the election, and some of the proponents, the former council members and landlords and others who are supporting this came out tonight to discuss the proposals. I want to respond to some of the things that were brought up, and frankly some of the misinformation that I believe is being perpetuated by proponents of proposal C and D. Right out the bat, Proposal C is deceptive to voters. The very first words of the charter amendment eliminate a city primary. Nowhere does that appear on the ballot language that was submitted by the proponents. So I hope that all voters who are listening and who are paying attention to this election do their homework, because the ballot proposal is much deeper than what was put forward in the language of the proposal itself. I'm also looking at the slogans that are put out on all of the glossy stickers and signs that are plastered all over downtown. One of them for Proposal C is more resident voices, not insider choices. Another is more student voices, not insider choices. I will note that all of the student organizations that have come out in this conversation have endorsed a no vote position on Proposal C. And I will also note that exactly what one of the commenters pointed out, which is that Proposal C, by eliminating a primary, will move our elections to school board style free-for-alls in November, where the local Democratic establishment, your insiders, would have almost complete control over the de facto nominee. Rather than entrusting voters with that choice, we're asking to move that process into one of the Sunday afternoon meetings in a room of about 200 people who can make it out in the middle of the summer, because they are partisans and strong Democrats who are in that room. And, it's concerning to me the level of misinformation there that's going around, because this is literally the process by which, many people are concerned that rotini noodles were used to endorse the candidates for school board, noting that the last 29 of 30 candidates who got elected to the school board received that endorsement in that room, rather than entrusting voters with that decision. Finally, on Proposal D, there's so much misinformation. First of all, the scare tactics around dark money. This does absolutely nothing about dark money. It can't. So the idea, though, is fight outside money. The reality is the proponents left a carve-out for outside landlords to contribute to campaigns and get matching funds contributed to their supporters. And also, I actually think that this will likely make the problem of dark money worse, because when some of the same out-of-town landlords who are bankrolling these proposals want to fund their favorite anti-housing candidate, they're not going to give $50 and call it a day. They're going to form a dark money PAC and continue to fund their elections.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you, and thank you for covering so much ground already, Council Members Radina and Song. I'm going to continue in this theme because we heard a lot of falsehoods in our public comment, and frankly, our voters and residents throughout the city are being peppered with false claims on social media and web ads from the proponents of proposals C and D, and it's necessary to call these out and correct the record. First of all, they call these measures progressive. I'm here to tell you there's nothing progressive about undermining the most diverse city council in Ann Arbor history. And we actually saw recently former council member Elizabeth Nelson write on her blog that the diversity on council that you see here is just looks, and that these council members are controlled by the mayor. That's not progressive, that's racist, plain and simple. Proponents say these measures will increase voter participation. I even saw a campaign video that claims people can't vote in August. We know that's false. We have no reason absentee ballots. Anyone can vote in the August primaries, even if they're out of town, if they are motivated to do so. They complain there's no opposition to the Democratic nominee on the November ballot, but there's nothing stopping Republicans from running. I also question why people who claim they're Democrats are upset that the winners of the Democratic primaries aren't facing challengers in the November election from Republicans. To me, that's just plain weird. Proponents also say that 99% of municipalities, we heard this tonight in Michigan, have nonpartisan elections. That is patently false. Townships and counties in Michigan are municipalities, and they have partisan elections. And most cities with nonpartisan elections still have a primary. So this proposal is wildly different. It eliminates the primary and turns our elections, as Councilmember Radina already stated, into a November free-for-all where you could have a number of candidates running and somebody wins with a small percentage of the vote and doesn't represent the majority of voters. That is why both of these measures, Proposal D is just illegal. So that's why the majority of these, we have a huge coalition that's opposing both measures, including Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, Jocelyn Benson, Governor Gretchen Whitmer's PAC is supporting the No campaign, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, the local NAACP, and the League of Women Voters, which rarely opines on local issues like this.
Councilmember.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I want to thank Kathleen Mozak for coming here on behalf of the Commission on Disability Issues. Not only have you continued to contribute immensely to the Commission, but this issue that you're raising of inaccessible parking spaces at City Hall is unacceptable. And I'm sorry that you've had to experience that. And it's something that I commit to continue working on with our accessibility coordinator, Tracy Bird, and the city, and I'll keep you updated. I want to make some comments about Proposal C and D because it has been wrought with just so much misinformation. I want us to be aware that the only other time that the city of Ann Arbor has changed voting rules was after we elected our first and only black mayor, Albert Wheeler. As Councilmember Jen Iyer just shared, we are the most diverse city council in our city's history. And
you can shake your head as much as you want. It's not just diversity in looks, but the way I look has also brought me diverse lived experience that informs policies, which you will not have based upon your lived experience. That's the bottom line. I also want to highlight that when we get rid, research shows that when we get rid of partisan elections, diversity decreases in terms of people in power. People who receive power based upon ethnic or racial diversity, that's limited. Because people like me, who have different sounding names, assumptions are made about my political beliefs and my values. It's one thing to support nonpartisan elections, but the way that you all mischaracterize us as being funded by big money is pathetic, and it's untrue. I'm the single earner in my family. I have 2 young kids, and I work 2 jobs. Please show me financial proof the next time you want to call me funded by big money or part of the elite in Ann Arbor. Thanks.
Councilmember Dish.
Thank you. I want to make 2 points. One is I want to invite everyone to the Ann Arbor District Library on Wednesday. There will be a day-long, roughly afternoon-long, from noon to 7, session on the comprehensive land use plan. And I think people still have a lot that they want to say and feedback that they want to offer. So please join us there. There will be staff presentations at I think 12:30 and 6. I know 6 for sure. 12:30 might also be actually noon. Sorry. And, since you mentioned Mayor Wheeler, Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, I just want to make the point that Wheeler's election was facilitated by the first and only use of ranked choice voting, that Wheeler had won before, and that the left split the majority left vote, and so Republican mayors were able to beat out the left. And so it was not until Ann Arbor was able to use ranked choice voting, where people could, where candidates can essentially effectively build coalitions during the electoral process, and the candidate runs bidding to be the first preference of some likely supporters and the second preference of the rest, and you add those both up and you end up with a majority win that reflects true majority support in the community, true majority opinion in the community, rather having the majority split itself, down the middle. So we legalized, we put it to you voters, and you said that you want ranked choice voting in Ann Arbor, and I hope the state lets us use it, because that's the only way that this nonpartisan electoral proposal will make any sense. Currently, it truly does not. It brings back the kind of politics that we saw Al Wheeler needing to overcome 30, 40, whatever it was, 1975 years ago.
Councilmember Ackman.
Hey, who else is ready for November 6th? On a different topic, I wanted to draw my council colleagues, as well as people who are watching this meeting, attention to a report that was attached to our agenda today, and that's a Phase 2 study from the nonprofit Minneapolis-based Art Space. This was a Phase 2 feasibility study on building affordable housing, and it highlighted the need for affordable housing for the creative community and outlined some recommendations of next steps that the city could take, as well as some interim steps, because kind of the ultimate step is to be able to build housing. I think a lot of us that have lived here for any length of time know friends who work in creative pursuits. Often they're also gig workers. Increasingly, they can't live here with a lot of other people, and they're important to the fabric of our community, along with other people who are getting pushed out. So some examples of some interim pieces that the city can take is creating a process that's designed to pair artistic community with existing affordable housing. And so the city is looking to partner with ArtSpace on projects that are already being considered by the city, as well as the Ann Arbor Housing Commission. The Dunbar Tower is one such project. And I look forward to engaging with my colleagues on this body, as well as the city, in moving us forward to the next phase of what an ArtSpace project might look like.
Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you. I was going to speak about the DDA's public engagement sessions, and just to clarify my colleagues' comments, the presentations will be at 12:30 and 6 p.m., but the event does go from 11 to 7 if you want to meet with DDA representatives and learn what's going on with their comprehensive planning process. I mentioned this at the last meeting, but it bears repeating that Sunday, October 27th is Halloween downtown. Put your costumes on, meet at the downtown library at 11:30 a.m. There will be trick-or-treating from 12:15 to 1:30 p.m. downtown. Please look for festive balloons outside of downtown business owners' doors to know where to stop. I know a lot of us, including the Art Center, are also giving out for folks who have food allergies or concerns. We are doing crafts and crayons and lots of things, so please don't let that stop you. And then from 1:30 to 3 p.m. on Sunday are spectacular activities on Main Street with great fun and excitement has been promised to await everyone. And so for my part in comments around proposal C and D, I know that there were comments from my colleagues about how diversity is being downplayed and hints at racism, obviously. I also want to point out, as a woman on a mostly female governing body, which is really amazing and unique in our country, that being accused of being controlled by an oldish white guy is kind of sexist too. There are a lot of perspectives and backgrounds sitting here, and when asking for your vote, we promised to work on issues that matter most to our community, and that's what won our elections. We made promises the community wanted us to keep. So from housing, transportation, and climate policy, we're moving progressive policies forward. We're increasing housing at all levels. We're pursuing clean energy agenda that is really unparalleled in our city's history. And I can understand how that kind of change is scary to those who are comfortable with the status quo, where rental housing is hard to find and expensive, and where our cars on our roads trump a sense of community in our downtown neighborhood, in our downtown and in our neighborhood. But here's the thing. Pro-housing candidates have won the 2 last election cycles. Landlords don't like this, and they're funding these terrible proposals. If you're a Democrat in Ann Arbor, every office holder you have voted for who's won from the top of the ballot to the bottom is against these proposals. The NAACP is against them, the League of Women Voters, the College Democrats. And for my part, I am proud to align with these leaders versus campus landlords and candidates who are resoundingly voted out of office due to the disconnect between their values and those of our neighbors. And I'm going to keep fighting for and pursuing the agenda that I got elected to sit here and work on. And I'm really proud to sit alongside my colleagues and pursue and advance those causes that matter.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to announce the Elks Community Fun Day, which is a neighborhood community event that will be this coming Sunday on October 27th from 2 to 6:30 p.m. This is sponsored by the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, and as a part of the Ann Arbor Bicentennial Legacy Project, the Elks Lodge looks to ensure their connection to the city continues to grow for years to come. So the theme of this event is threading community soul with neighborhood love for a better Ann Arbor. I just want to share a little story. I guess not so much a story, but I want to share something with you all, and this does relate to Proposal C and D. In early 2020, when the council meetings, it was during the pandemic and the council meetings were on Zoom, I was watching. And one of the first things I noticed was that nobody sitting in those squares, not one person on city council looked like me. And quite frankly, as a black woman who was born and raised in this town, I've never left, I've never lived anywhere else, I was offended by that. I knew that there was no one sitting on city council that could represent really my perspective. And so I thought about it at the time. Maybe one day I'll run for city council. I didn't know it was going to be in 2022. I thought maybe later, but I did. And I am here to tell you, if any of y'all have followed my work, everything I've done on city council has related to my lived experience and the lived experience of 3 generations of my family, my parents, myself, and my children. And I'm here to disrupt the status quo. And those who know me know that I will continue to disrupt the status quo. And so when I hear someone referencing that diversity in referencing looks, that's highly offensive and quite frankly racist, because what I've done, I will speak for myself, what I've done on city council as a black woman is not just shown up here in my braids and my, earrings, my big earrings, my ethnic looking earrings. It's what I've done on city council. It's the driving equality ordinance. It is providing funding to individuals that have been over-policed and are justice impacted to help them with housing, trauma wraparound supportive services, to provide trauma-informed wraparound supportive services. So that's what I have to say about Proposal C and D, or the rhetoric around those two proposals. And that's about it for now. Thanks.
I would say further communication from council, but I think everyone's already spoken. Well, there's a lot that's been said about Proposals C and D. I've said a fair bit in public and elsewhere, and so I think I'll just rest on those comments, but merely say I think the commentary that folks have heard here today from the table is powerful, heartfelt, well-reasoned, and deeply, deeply true. It's the kind of wisdom and temperance in the face of calumny that any oldish white guy would be proud to sit with. I'd like to recommend the following nominations for your consideration to the Transportation Commission: Eric Zecher and Kate Fellowing. We have before us the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Watson, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion of the consent agenda. Councilmember Ackman.
I don't need to pull this for discussion, but I did want to thank staff and the developer for working today on amending the development agreement that is attached. That was updated just a couple hours before our meeting. And basically what it does is include language that the developer will agree to maintain safe, non-motorized transportation routes on South University to the greatest extent practical during construction. And I'm not sure how often you all travel down William, but if you remember, council passed a similar amendment to that development agreement to keep the William Street Bikeway open as was practical. And last week, constituents contacted me because it was blocked, but there was safety tape on one end, but not the other. So it created, not only was blocked, but it created a dangerous situation where you didn't know it shouldn't be traveled on until you got to the other side of it, depending what direction you were coming on. I alerted staff to that, and within days, there was one of those fancy things that you see in a real city where there was like a wooden structure across the bikeway so that people can still safely use it. So we're not asking that conditions be unsafe, but that to the degree that is practicable and maintained safe, that we can have routes as there's construction going on, because we know there's quite a bit of it. So thank you.
Councilmember Cornell.
Very similarly, I don't want to pull this, I just want to make a quick comment on CA5, which is the resolution to revise and amend the list of approved participating establishments in the downtown Ann Arbor Social District. The social district was expanded, as you know, to encompass both Main Street and State Street, and expanded that area where people can leave an establishment with an approved container of beverage of your choice. And I'm really pleased to report back that that is being met with great enthusiasm from our downtown businesses who are benefiting from it. So when we bemoan, oh, nobody comes downtown, or oh, it's not busy, or whatever, that's just not true. Downtown is vibrant, it is bustling. We're doing everything that we can to support these businesses and listening to them, and it's working by evidence of this list being expanded. And so I'm appreciative of the support for those businesses. They are telling us that it makes a big difference and is really helpful for them as they continue to recover post-pandemic.
Further discussion on the consent agenda. Councilmember Medina.
Thanks. I will also just briefly mention about CA4, which is another one of the liquor licenses that we are recommending moving forward from the Liquor License Review Committee. There is a new Thai restaurant hoping to open up on Main Street in the old Cuisina space that will be open late for food and drinks, and then will remain open early into the morning hours if Thai food at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. is what you're looking for. And so we look forward to seeing them move forward, and hopefully we will have another thriving business on our Main Street soon.
Councilor Song.
I just want to speak to CA3 on low-income emergency assistance contracts. I spoke with one of the program managers at CAN over the weekend, and she was telling me how they're running out of food at the food pantry and how there are families taking 2 buses in order to come and get food. We are a community with extreme needs that still exist. And if you're unfamiliar with Barrier Busters, I would take a closer look at your water bill. You have the option of actually contributing additional monies to this fund. So many thanks to residents who tack on that extra $5. It means a lot to this, to all the social service agency workers. And also note that often this fund, all the funds are used up before the end of the fiscal year. But that still makes an impact, especially before our warming shelters are open. So this funding is timely, and I can't thank everyone enough for doing this work.
Further discussion on the consent agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We now come to a set of public hearings. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. To speak at a public hearing, one need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, the item on the agenda to which the public hearing relates. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so here and at home, please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number 1, ordinance to amend Chapter 55, Unified Development Code, rezoning of .51 acres from TWP Township District to R1B, Single Family Dwelling District, Lou Property, 444 Huntington Place. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I see no one online with their hand raised.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 2, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55, Unified Development Code, rezoning of .05 acres from TWP Township District to R1B, Single Family District, Brixmore Property, 110 Algaby Way. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Caller with the phone number ending in 411, you may unmute your phone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is James Demore. I live in the 3rd Ward of the city of Ann Arbor. Although I worked on the Northeast Area Plan a long time ago when I lived in the 2nd Ward. And I'm very familiar with this property that's being annexed. Now, what's before you is not particularly drastic, and I don't feel like we lose sleep if you approve this. But just the real reason why I'm calling in is that this is probably the only opportunity you as council members are only able to hear what's going on with this property under the new current rules that are coming down. And the fact that whatever is being proposed will be a by right development, in which our council members will not be able to probably weigh in on, except for the representative on the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, I've been told, is thinking of removing public hearings as well, to make everything done administratively. I hope that's not the case, because this is such a problematic site, This overlooks the valley of Huron River. There have been sightings of endangered species on the site. There are transportation issues that be associated with whichever new development comes in, and whether it's R1B or whether a PUD comes in. Maybe we'll have a hearing then. We shall see. But at any rate, this is going to be something of great significance, and it's probably one of the last undeveloped parcels in the town. I think a great number of people are going to be interested in what you're going to say and do and what's moving forward. I realize there was a lot of discussion earlier about people's voices not being heard. I think when it really comes down to it, I think that's driving the politics behind all of it, is that people feel that they aren't being heard on development issues. And I would say that a certain constituency has the ear of council right now. I think that's what a lot of people are concerned with more than anything else. At any rate, my thoughts going in terms of this proposal before you this evening. And with that, I bid you a good evening.
Thank you.
Mayor, I see no one else on the line. Oh, one moment. Caller with the phone number ending in 618, you may speak.
Hi, this is Michelle Hughes, and I was just calling in because this is, we're talking about annexing a new parcel as R1B, and that seems like, I thought we were setting a new direction where we weren't going to have, we weren't going to be annexing things with such low density zoning characteristics, and I was hoping that you might consider annexing this with a higher density zoning district, like R1E or something like that, or R1B at least, as has happened in some of the previous recent annexations. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Adam Goodman, you may unmute your phone.
This is Adam Goodman, speaking to you from the 5th Ward. I kind of want to echo the sentiments that Michelle Hughes just expressed. I think the last public hearing was just about a single parcel, but this is quite a large area of land. And, this is going to basically be the defining vote about what gets done there. A lot of people were upset previously about the Concord Pines development, which was, a relatively low-density luxury single-family development on the northeast side of town on a greenfield site. But there wasn't really anything that could be done to stop it or to push that developer in a different direction, because what they did was compliant with the existing zoning. But this parcel has no existing zoning. You get to decide what should be done with this parcel. And so I would ask that you actually seriously consider whether R1B is the right choice for this site. Thank you.
Adam Juskovitz, did you have comment to make?
No, I didn't. Sorry. I just saw that you had accidentally unmuted me instead of Adam Goodman.
All right, apologies. Mayor, I believe that's everyone.
Seeing no one further, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 3, an ordinance to amend Section 1120A of Chapter 55, City Seal and Flag of Title I of the City Code. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I don't see anyone.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 4, an ordinance to amend a new section, an ordinance to add a new section 9.155.1 of Chapter 112, Non-Discrimination of Title 9 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Is there anyone in-house who'd like to speak at this public hearing?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Ian Robinson. I'm resident of Ann Arbor in Ward 4, and I've been before you once before on this topic, but when I spoke before, we hadn't had an opportunity at Huron Valley Area Labor Federation to discuss this proposal at length, and since that last time I came before you, we have had that conversation. I'm happy to report that we have very strong support on our body, which represents 50 local unions roughly in our area, 20,000 workers and their families for this change. I gave you some reasons last time about why I think it's important. Obviously, it's creating opportunities for workers who already face challenges that most of us don't face. It's important to increase opportunities for them, but I think it's also one of those cases where even though it may cause a little bit of it requires some additional work on the part of employers to launch something like this. With the way that this proposal is written, that the provision for the right to sit must not interfere with the performance of basic duties. It really is going to expand the pool of workers who are available for employers at a time when a lot of employers are really finding it difficult to find well-qualified employees. So I believe this is a win-win, even though the transition to it may require a little additional effort and may worry people who are employers. I think we have a long history of labor reforms that have helped workers, which have proven to be win-win in nature. I think this is going to be one of them, so I'm very glad that you've brought this, Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, and the other supporters and co-sponsors of this, and you have our full support as a labor movement in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of council, I'll be brief, but I want to thank all the presenters prior, and thank you to the labor representative prior as well for their support. I just want to thank council. I want to thank our city. I want to thank our business owners, and I want to thank our residents for understanding the importance of this. 1 in 4 Americans in the United States declared that they have some type of disability. So this is not just, the fiscally responsible thing to do. This is the right thing to do. And we are continually opening ourselves up to better financial gain by making our businesses more accessible, but also making sure that employers and employees have importance, that they have that sense of well-being in getting reasonable accommodations. Finally, just to be brief, I would like to also urge business owners that if they have reservations about this particular subject matter, that please note it is not about the finances. It's not a matter of spending money. It is just a matter of thinking ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in House who'd like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who'd like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I see no hands raised. Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 5, an ordinance to amend Section 5
an ordinance to amend Section 117 Code Violation Citations of Chapter 1 of Title 1 and Section 8458 of Chapter 104 Energy and Water Benchmarking of Title 8. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Thanks, Mayor Taylor. Ken Garber, 2nd Ward. Compliance with the city's energy benchmarking ordinance is critical. Buildings are responsible for 65% of the city's Scope 1 and Scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions. And the first step in reducing those emissions is measurement and disclosure. This can be a powerful motivator to take action. The revisions before you tonight expand the pool of city staff explicitly authorized to enforce the ordinance. This is obviously good, and I support it. But I would appreciate perhaps some context around this change. There was no discussion at first reading, very little in Legistar. It suggests that there's been poor compliance on the part of building owners to date. Maybe council or staff in your discussion can elaborate on the nature and the extent of these problems. How many building owners have submitted a benchmarking report, and what percentage of those reports have included the proper information? Has there been any enforcement in terms of fines or legal action? Also, transparency is a critical element. This ordinance has been in effect for 3 years. It specifies, quote, beginning no later than December 1st, 2022, and every year thereafter, the manager shall make available on a publicly accessible website an annual report on the results of the benchmarking reports received, end quote. To my knowledge, I might be wrong, but I can't find such a report on the city's websites. Will there finally be one this year? Now, I sympathize with staff's struggles to get building owners to comply. I know they're working hard on this, and I can appreciate the obstacles. People resist change, but we're already 2 years late. Also, the 820 plan goal for benchmarking is 90% compliance in the residential, commercial, and institutional sectors by 2025. I'm assuming that goal won't be met or even approached. When do we now expect to achieve 90% compliance? To sum up, I support these revisions tonight and the ordinance, which I think is excellent. My main questions are, 1, how well have owners complied with the ordinance to date? 2, what enforcement actions, if any, has the city taken? 3, when will the city post its first annual report? And 4, when can we now expect to reach the 90% compliance goal?
Thank you. Is there anyone else in-house who'd like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who'd like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, there's no one currently with their hands raised.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the regular session meeting minutes of October 7, 2024. May I have a motion, please, to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Watson, seconded by Councilmember Radina. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor? Opposed? They are approved. B1, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55, Unified Development Code, rezoning of .51 acres from TWP Township District to R1B Single Family Dwelling District. Lou Property, 444 Huntington Place. Moved by Councilmember Medina, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of B1. Councilmember Dish.
Yeah, this one's one of those straightforward township parcels that's been annexed. The owner of the parcel requested, I was going to say required, but even owners can't do that. They asked for R1A, and Planning Commission decided to go with R1B for this parcel. It doesn't affect what the owner can do with their parcel. They still want to build a home, and that's what they're going to do, but we are zoning it a little more densely than they asked for. It's a .51 acre parcel that will connect to city utilities. Water and sanitary sewer are available to it. Public storm sewer is not, and that is not a problem because that's about the easiest thing you can do yourself with swales and other excellent eco-friendly procedures. So this is straightforward, and there's no reason not to vote yes, which is why I'm doing that.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. B2, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55 Unified Development Code rezoning of .05 acres from TWP Township District to R1B Single Family Dwelling District, Brixmore Property 110 Agaby Way, moved by Councilmember Radina, seconded by Councilmember Song. Discussion, please, at B2. Councilmember Dish.
Yeah, this one I do want to discuss, and I don't know if Ms. DeLeo is there and can show us the picture from the staff report, but if that is possible, that would be great. I think there might have been some confusion about what we are voting on here. We are not voting on South Pond. 110 Agaby Way is a very small orphan parcel, 0.05 of an acre. It looks like a notch if you look in the staff report. It has a biography. It was cut off from its parent parcel. The parent now lives across from it on the east side of US 23. And the orphan is owned by the owner, Brixmore, of the adjacent parcels that are planned as South Pond Village, once they are annexed and zoned. Now, this little notch of a parcel itself is so tiny as to be unbuildable once any setbacks are applied. It will be used only to help with access to the adjacent parcels. And I want to quote, thank you so much. You see the yellow arrow is pointing to the little parcel whose rezoning we are now addressing. I want to quote the staff report directly. This is a very unique scenario created by the construction of US 23. And I want to underscore again that this little parcel, nothing can be built on this little parcel. We're just giving it a new family. So please vote yes.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. B3, an ordinance to amend Section 1120A of Chapter 9, City Seal and Flag of Title I of the City Code, moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Radina. Discussion, please, of B3. For my part, I'm excited about the prospect of the passage of this ordinance. What it does is it finalizes the adoption of the new city flag. A great city, of course, deserves a great flag, and we, after the passage of this ordinance, will indeed have one. It's my fond hope that over time there will be flags aplenty throughout the land. There will be laptop stickers, lapel pins, all manner of flag-related swag for folks to express their fondness and belonging in the city of Ann Arbor. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. B4, an ordinance to add a new section 9.155.1 of Chapter 112, Non-Discrimination of Title IX of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor, moved by Councilmember Gaziano and seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of B4. Councilmember Gaziano.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everyone who's come to support this, the Huron Valley Labor Federation, AFL-CIO, local businesses, Main Street, State Street, Area Association, the Ann Arbor Chamber, and of course, my council colleague co-sponsors for their support in this and for all the community members. And I hope you all will continue to support this. Thank you.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you. At previous meetings, we heard from a number of people, residents who personally have needed this type of accommodation. And since we didn't have anyone who fit that bill necessarily tonight, I thought I would share just a quick anecdote as the daughter of somebody who needed this type of accommodation. I've often spoke about my upbringing as the daughter of an electrician and a nurse, but what I don't often say is that my mother's nursing career was cut short because she got MS and was no longer able to work as a nurse. And after a few years of staying home with the family, she took a job in retail. And I remember thinking, how is she going to be able to do this? And I visited her one day in the shop, and I noticed that they had a stool for her to sit on. And I remember, it was probably 12 or 13, and I just remember feeling so grateful that they had provided that accommodation for her, and that she was able to work, help make some more money for the family, and come home not completely wrecked and exhausted. So, yeah, I just would encourage business owners who are thinking about this, who are maybe thinking, you know, is this really worth it? Is this really necessary? You know, it benefits not just that person, but the people they depend upon too. And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. B5, an ordinance to amend Section 517 Code Violation Citations of Chapter 1 of Title 1 and Section 8458 of Chapter 104 Energy and Water Benchmarking of Title 8. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of B5. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. B6, an ordinance to amend Sections 5.18, 5.22, 5.29, and 5.37 of Chapter 55 Unified Development Code of Title 5 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Height exceptions, stormwater reviews, development approvals, finished grade. Moved by Councilmember Medina, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion of B6. Councilmember Dish.
I've spoken before to this when it first came up to us, so I'll just remind people, I don't want to go in detail here, that there are many components that we're addressing here. The floodplain component that was raised earlier is not a component to which we have made a change, so I'm not going to talk about that. The major change that's made here is the change to height exceptions, and we're doing that because there are a number of things that increase the height of a building without providing additional inhabitable space. Those things include elevators, escalators, and stairwells, and the idea is that buildings in mixed-use, non-residential, and special-purpose zoning districts can have an additional 12 feet to accommodate those uses, and that is not charged against their area. And so that they do not have to lose habitable building space to accommodate elevators. We've talked about that before. I'm really not, there's an amendment regarding site plan approval that will make it easier for people to adapt interiors, repurpose interiors, make it less expensive for them, more quickly to do that. There is not a plan to completely eliminate hearings on site plans at the Planning Commission, so I just want to clarify that. That would not be, first of all, not legal, and not desirable. So we're not doing that.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. C1, an ordinance to amend Section 9103 of Chapter 111, Fire Prevention of Title 9 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Ghazi-Edwin, seconded by Councilmember Redina. Discussion, please, of C1. Councilmember Ackman.
Thank you. So what this ordinance change does is it removes from our city ordinance the International Fire Code regulation to have 26 clear feet around buildings that are over 30 feet in size. That's how I understand it. And I wanted to highlight a few different things in case people are wondering, are we, throwing fire safety out the window, which I do not think we are. Instead, I would suggest that this is a balanced approach to looking at safety holistically. We know that wide roads are dangerous for people, and there are many things that we want to do to our roads to make them safe for everybody. Traffic crashes are a very high component of people being injured and killed. I'd also note that despite public comment, this was prepared by our Safety Service Administrative Manager and reviewed by our Fire Chief. And also attached says there are no impacts to city operations that are anticipated to result from the adoption of this amendment. Also, despite being called the International Fire Code, it actually in point is not international. It's a US-based code. It differs from other countries around the world, and other municipalities have relaxed these standards so that rather than just hewing to a standard, they're looking at how do we, create a situation which fire can have the access that they need, but we also make the roads that are safe for everyone. So we would be joining the ranks of Portland and Alameda County, along with others that have relaxed this rule. And so, I think what this does is instead of relying on a standard, it requires tight collaboration between staff to make sure that we're ensuring the proper fire access that is needed while we do what needs to be done to create safe infrastructure for people traveling in a variety of ways, and I trust staff to do that work.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC1, resolution authorizing summary publication of Ordinance 2420 and ordinance to amend sections 5.18, 5.22, 5.29, and 5.37 of Chapter 55 Unified Development Code of Title V of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Height exceptions, stormwater reviews, development approvals, and finished grade. Is there discussion, please, of DC1? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC2, resolution to revise 2024 council calendar, moved by Councilmember Medina, second by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Discussion, please, of DC2. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC3, resolution to approve closing of William Street between East William Street and East Madison Streets and East Jefferson and Maynard Streets on Friday, October 25, from 4:30 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. Moved by Councilmember Medina, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of DC3. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. Ms. Cord, we have the pleasure of a closed session today.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to request a closed session under MCL 15.268, specifically Section 81H, regarding the privileged and confidential memo provided to council on October 17, 2024.
May I have a motion, please, to go into closed session on that basis? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Iyer.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs? Absent. Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Song?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Councilmember Redina?
Yes.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're in closed session. May I have a motion, please, to go back into open session? Moved by Councilmember Ackman, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. We have before us the clerk's report of communications. May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Ackman. Discussion of the clerk's report. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Do we have communications today from our city attorney?
No, thank you, Mayor.
In the absence of public comment overflow, may I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councilmember Harrison, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.